Hi, I'm Manuel Gonzalez, and I'd like to share with you the hidden method of how you connect education with real world employment without getting into huge student debt. Now, let's start with the problems with the current higher education system, i.e., university. Now, the first problem is that the system is too focused on end of year exams. Now, why is this test method a problem? Well, it causes huge amounts of unnecessary stress because students are trying to memorize a huge amount of information within a short space of time, and no one actually enjoys that experience. And this is something that is not conducive to long-term learning. Now, why do I say that? Because the focus during that kind of experience is to just get a high score, a high grade at the end of the year within a short space of time, rather than progressively learning from your mistakes throughout the year. So basically, there is no room to fail at these big end of year exams that amounts to the majority of your grade. There's no room to fail and get feedback so that you know how to improve next time, which is the key to learning. Now, the next problem is that too many degrees teach general theory. So if you're studying something like politics or history or most humanities, these subjects may well be very, very interesting in and of itself. However, they're too general, not practical enough to actually translate into an actual specific job. And lastly, going through a degree will cost you an average of £50,000 plus interest. This includes the tuition fee and the maintenance loans. So imagine you haven't even got a job yet, but as soon as you graduate, you owe £50,000 at 21 years of age. Now, what does that mean after you graduate? What does that mean for the students that do complete their 3-year degree? Well, they've had 3 stressful years due to exam-centric learning, where they're going to be asking themselves, well, what did I actually learn? They're going to struggle to get a job because most of the learning was based on just accumulating knowledge and learning theory, and they're going to find out that what employers actually value is experience more than a degree. And then they're going to struggle to find that job and will be wondering, why won't anyone hire me? And it will be like the chicken and the egg situation. They need experience to get a job, but you need a job to get experience. And even if they were to pay the minimal payments, most students won't even be able to cover the 6.1 interest that is constantly being added to their overall loan and will continue to compound, meaning they'll hardly even make a dent into the capital. And this could be a lifetime debt, and they'll be wondering, how am I actually going to pay off my student loan? And this is a unique situation that people in the UK are facing, that they'll graduate with no job, with a huge debt to pay. And this is not the best way to start a young person's working life for their future. Now, how do you actually get a job if employers value experience over a degree? So if we reverse engineer what employers would want to know, they want to know, what can you do? And this is the specialist skills. They want to know, what specialist skills do you have that can add value to their company? Then added to that, the next thing they want to know is, what have you done before? So they want to know, what experience do you have in applying those specialist skills, so that you're not totally starting from scratch, so that you don't totally need training from the beginning. And this greatly reduces the risk on their part if you have experience, because then you can start adding value to the company immediately and you won't be a liability. Now, lastly, what they want to know is, are you easy to work with? This is all about your attitude to the work and how you work with other people. Do you have the right level of emotional intelligence to communicate yourself effectively, to happily complete all work assigned to you, and to constantly look for ways to add more value? Now, there are some older sectors, older careers, where you not only need these attributes but a formal degree qualification. Careers that have been around for hundreds of years, such as being a lawyer or being a doctor. For those kinds of old school careers, not only are they heavily saturated, but yes, you would need those degree qualifications. However, there is a hidden industry where these attributes are far more valuable than a degree. What is this hidden industry? So, it's the UK's fastest growing sector that is involved with the creation of the latest technologies that affect our lives, such as ordering takeaway promptly to your door, catching an Uber, or even finding a marriage partner. This is the digital creative industry. It's also known as the tech sector. Now, why do I say it's hidden? Well, because it's relatively new. How long has the internet been around in a mass scale? I'd say around the late 1990s. So we're talking about just around 20 years that the internet has been around and growing heavily in its usage and how we depend on it as mass consumers. And then think about how long has the smartphone been around? Well, the iPhone was only released 2007. That's just over 10 years ago. So we've got this new technology and these new devices that have not been around for a very long time, and parents will not be aware of this industry and how you get into it, and they'll be thus more biased to more older, more traditional occupations. And it's right on your doorsteps for many of you that live in major cities like London, Manchester or Reading. And the same thing also applies internationally. If you're living in a place like Berlin or Paris or any major city in the United States, the tech industry, the digital creative industry is right on your doorstep. Now, this impact of the digital creative industry within the UK is that it was responsible for £184 billion, right, revenue to the UK economy last year. And it's a sector that actually grew 2.6 times at the rate of the rest of the economy. So if you compare this sector with other sectors, it's grown more than twice the rate. And it's been responsible for 1.9 million jobs and exports around almost 20 billion in services, and that was just in 2016. And also the average salary for a job was almost 50k. Now, within this hidden industry, there is a hidden role. And whenever I explain to someone what I actually do, 99% of the time, no one has heard of it or knows what it is. And that's partly because it's a very new and expanding role, and it's within the hidden industry, and there is no one set path to it. This is the UX designer, user experience designer. And what does a user experience designer do? Well, essentially, there's someone that designs how someone will interact with a service or product, usually in the form of an app or website, in order to meet a desired goal. So you can think of it something like an architect of a building. Okay, they're the ones that are going to come up with the blueprints of where everything should go and why it should go there, before someone else will actually construct that building and someone else to do the lovely, beautiful interior design. It's the same thing for apps and websites, that you have that architect that's putting that blueprint in place so that the developers know exactly what to build and why they're building it. And this is something I've been doing for the past 10 years after I actually dropped out of university, and it has always been in so much demand because it's such a valuable role. Now, why is a UX designer so valuable and in so much demand? Well, UX designers, they're not focused on what will be the easiest, coolest, or cheapest thing to build. They're focused on what will bring the most value to the customer and solve their problems. And when you're constantly striving on how to give the best customer experience for your customer, you'll always have returning customers. Think of Amazon and Apple. They are so focused on the customer experience. It's at the heart of everything they do, and that's why they're so successful, and they always have returning customers, because they place the customer experience above everything else, such as the technology or what will make the most business sense from a purely business sense. They lead by the customer experience, and everything else follows suit. Now, a UX designer is at the heart of connecting all the dots. Now, what do I mean by that? Because they answer all the questions, all the important questions, by being at the heart of the customer, business, and technology intersection. That enables them to connect with the right people and get the right answers from them, and therefore they're able to coordinate what the right result would be when they're designing their software for apps or websites. And lastly, UX designers, they save a tremendous amount of money by helping to prevent the wrong designs from being built. So because they're at the heart of many businesses now, no longer do developers just build software straight at the gate without any insight to what a user experience designer would do. Now, a UX designer will do the critical upfront work, such as customer research and validation, right? So that the developers can confidently build the solution, knowing that they're building the right thing, and avoid costly rework. So how do you actually become a user experience designer within the digital creative industry? What is this hidden method of connecting education with real world employment without the huge debt? It's what I call the REAL method, and this stands for reverse engineered applied learning. And this is at the heart, this is the key to learning and in getting those key attributes in order to get actual paid employment. Now, what does this mean? Put simply, it's when you learn about the key activities that someone performs in their job, and then you reverse engineer it so that you apply the same behavior. This is essential, as you're not learning any redundant information, but are actually mirroring the behavior of real world practitioners. And that is how you get the special skills, experience, and the right persona for a specific role. Now, how do you apply the REAL method to becoming a UX designer? The REAL method here is based on 4 P's. Okay, first P is about projects. This is when you go through a number of real life projects that map to what people do in the real world, that map to what UX designers do in the real world. And then next, based on that, you're in a position where you can create your portfolio, which is a demonstration of all your best projects that you have completed to date, and be shown online or on something like a PDF. And once you have that in place, you're in a great position to pitch, and that is when you present an example of your best and latest work in order to showcase your skills, experience, and persona in the context of a real life project. And lastly comes an industry placement, where you get to practice those real world skills on a real client project and develop yourself until you're ready for a fully paid position. And these 4 P's are at the heart of the REAL method of how you connect yourself to a paid position without getting into huge debt. Now, what is the result of taking the REAL method? Education here becomes experiences and not exams. You're going through an actual learning process where you learn through incremental failure, rather than the possibility of a huge failure at the end of the year. Education becomes specialist training, not general theory, where you'll gain relevant knowledge and application where you can start adding value straight away to the market. Education becomes an investment and not a lifetime of debt. When you invest in your education, this means that it will be easy for you to pay off. It will easily pay for itself, because it should have increased your value to the market rather than leaving you with no added value and a huge debt to pay. And most importantly, the result of going through the real method is that it will lead you to a real paid position quicker than a 3-year degree and without a lifetime of debt. Now, who can the real method help? The real method can help those that are in college and are thinking of going to university but really want to explore an alternative way of connecting to a fulfilling career without the time and huge debt commitment. And it works great for those that have recently dropped out of university and they realize that university was not for them and are looking for another way to connect to a career. And lastly, it can even help those that have recently graduated from university who have realized that the degree is not helping them get into a career that is worth the debt that they are now committing to. So, if you want to become a paid UX designer without the lifetime of debt, then please go ahead and book a strategy session with myself. A strategy session is when you and I will go for a 45-minute call where we will discuss your current situation and where you want to be within the next year, so that we can see if you'll be a good fit for the Hidden UX Placement Program. Now, I want to thank you all for taking the time in understanding that there is an alternative way in connecting education to a fulfilling career without getting into huge debt. And I look forward to hopefully working with you soon.